As the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. In this current context, that axiom should ring true for Sega's very own Valkyria series, which has seen a few mainline and spin-off installments stray from the path thematically since its debut about a decade ago. After some experimentation that may not have paid off depending on which fans you ask, 2018 will see the English release of a much anticipated return to form with Valkyria Chronicles 4 for the PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch and PC. Chronologically, Valkyria Chronicles 4 mostly falls in line with the first game in the series. While Gallia are busy up north defending their homeland from invaders, this time you follow the trials and tribulations of Commander Claude Wallace and Squad E of the Ranger Corps within the Atlantic Federation. They are tasked with Operation Northern Cross, a mission that sends the Corps deep into enemy territory of the Imperial Alliance from the south border all the way to the far east. Closer proximity to the enemy stronghold means bigger battalions to intercept, stronger defences to breach, and higher stakes to overcome. Like the first game, the struggles between the Federation and Imperial forces serve as a blatant yet impactful allegory to the World War II, even if the anime aesthetic tends to occasionally bend the tone on grounds of juxtaposition. Good-natured banter between squad mates contrasts with what I'd consider some of the darkest moments in the series to date, as Squad E are caught in a never-ending nightmare of hardships that only get worse as they edge deeper into enemy territory. If I could point out a few flaws within an otherwise lovely-looking game, playing the Switch version sports some textures and objects like knee-high grass to be much lower in quality than other games being released this day and age. Pre-rendered cutscenes are also a little sparse compared to the first game, as most of the events transpire within visual novel-style talking head segments. I mean, don't get me wrong, the dialogue is certainly good enough to convey its points, but it definitely implies that this game had a much smaller budget to work with compared to the first game. A few more action-oriented full-motion cutscenes detailing the more dire events of the war would have driven home a better sense of urgency that a high-tension operation staged behind enemy lines truly deserves. Though the biggest takeaway from Valkyria Chronicles 4 is the return to turn-based strategy following Valkyria Revolution's release. Units are placed among the field top-down like chess pieces on a board, and turns are taken to control them individually, occasionally going into a more intimately framed third-person mode to attack, flank, or capture choke points in missions. The approach Valkyria Chronicles 4 takes is fairly conservative, but this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Potentials, which can be passive buffs or debuffs, are now personalized depending on the unit, while squad members' preferences for working with other units change throughout the operation's tenure, providing a sense of organic maturation of each unit in the squad. The newly introduced class Grenadier is a range-centric powerhouse that could easily eclipse the utility of the anti-tank Lancers, if not for their poor mobility and constitution, so this prevents upsetting the original class meta as much as they should. I mean, rest assured you could still cheese through missions by completing them in one turn via some questionable methods that may or may not involve abusing a certain specific armoured personnel carrier. But at least the game demands that you earn that right by studying each operation thoroughly before you get into any form of grinding for experience or money. More changes include allowing leaders to pair up with other units simultaneously at a reduced command point cost, along with the last stand function, where you can choose to either counterattack, temporarily buff a nearby unit, or make one final push before that soldier is incapacitated on the field. These add an extra dimension to more aggressive playstyles like mine that the developers feel pretty intent on accommodating. Map design and weather effects like snow and rain impede on your accuracy and mobility, and it really keeps you on your toes throughout the entire story campaign. And mission variety is surprisingly diverse. At one point, you're with the upper hand performing reconnaissance at night on your enemies, and the next day, you're hanging on by a thread defending allied capture points as enemy tanks take turns making mincemeat out of your squad. And if you're looking to serve in the core for a long time, story and side content will run you close to about 60 hours, making this game fall in line with the longevity of some of the PSP Valkyria titles. And with that, I'd heartily recommend series veterans and newcomers to Valkyria Chronicles 4, even after the likes of some lackluster sequels that may have dissuaded some people since. From here, it's quite clear that the developers have clued back into why fans had fallen in love with the series in the first place, and Valkyria Chronicles 4 represents a shining beacon of hope for the future of the series, both in its mechanical and its creative philosophies.